him.
I want to watch the news.
Are you making headway at least?
This is the news.
Smack 'em a gob, it's time for the only news that matters. And in a recent interview of the Scars and Guitars podcast, Winger's frontman Kip Winger discussed how he avoided the common pitfalls of fame of the late 80s and early 90s, an era which many musicians, including late Warrant's frontman Jani Lane, struggled with the rock and roll lifestyle. And Kip shared his experience. He said, "First off, alcohol makes me physically ill. I could drink, and my grandmother was an alcoholic, so it's not only, it not only made me sick, but I could outdrink anyone. It just wasn't good for me. If I drank one bottle of wine, I'd be on my way to the second one. When I moved to Nashville, people were drinking and driving like a badge of honor. One day, I just put the bottle down and said, I'm done. It was starting to mess up my voice, and I wasn't an alcoholic, but I drank when I wasn't performing because it would destroy my voice." Kip went on to share his thoughts on Jani Lane and the challenges he faced with addiction. He said, "I had some rough interactions with Jani, but when he wasn't drunk, he was the nicest guy. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a weakness, but I don't mean that harshly. If you have a tendency to drink, it's a tough thing to overcome." Vince Neil from Motley Crue is another example. The nicest guy when he's sober, but the worst person when he's drunk. In the 80s, with bands like Guns N' Roses, everyone followed that rock star image with the bottles of Jack and all that nonsense. That was never my thing. I wanted to be a better musician, so I stayed away from it. And in all these rock stars' autobiographies, I see people talking how they OD'd and were rushed to the hospital. I'm like, you overdosed because you're stupid. You did drugs because you're stupid. And then he later on talked about how he went on some unplugged tour with Jani Lane, and Jani Lane was a pain in the ass, and then Jani Lane brought a preacher with him on the road, and then Jani would get drunk and go up to Kip Winger preaching to him, to the point where they actually kicked Jani off that bus because they couldn't deal with him anymore. He also talked about the whole Beavis and Butthead and Metallica, how they were very instrumental in, making Winger a laughingstock back then. And he said that James Hetsfield called him and apologized to him about that. And he says now and then he'll get a text from James saying, "Hey, how you doing?" And he thinks it's really cool, but he hasn't heard from Lars. And yeah, it's kind of messed up, but man, it's cool. I think that's a really cool thing that James did. Not only apologize to him, but trying to keep in touch with him here and there. This big-ass stadium headlining rock star is sending Kip Winger texts like, "Hey man, how you doing?" That's awesome, man. Maybe he woke up like I did. I don't know about that, but man, I gotta thank my viewers. Somebody donated for me to put the first Winger album against I forget what. And that first Winger album was awesome. I was like, what the hell? Because I've never liked Winger. But also I gotta go back a little bit. I went to shows where Winger was opening and I didn't bother to go in. I think they opened for Kiss, A Haunted Shade, or something like that. I know there were a couple of Winger shows I didn't bother to go in. Well, they did a pre-cruise show here at the Miami Casino, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And I went and they played and they were freaking amazing live. The musicianship in Winger was ridiculous. I was like, holy crap, man. These guys are talented as fuck. I mean, everybody in that band was top notch. It was unbelievable, right? But as cool as that show was, I didn't really go and say, oh, I got to go check out some Winger now. Because all I knew was 17, you know, and stuff like that. So, and I, you know, Heading for a Heartbreak, I still don't like those songs, you know. But, you know, there is a few that I liked from that first album. So then my friend from Canada, Jackson Rowdy, he sent me the second Winger album on compact disc. I didn't like it at all. I thought it was terrible. That was the one with Heading for a Heartbreak. I don't like it. Can't get enough. All that shit. I didn't like it. And then later on, somebody sent me a track by track of the third Winger album. And I was like, damn, this is really good. And then Jackson Routing sent me Pull, which is probably my favorite one out of all of them. And I heard all the other ones cool, but I gotta tell you, man, my favorites are Pull and the last album, 7. Amazing. And I think that is going to be the last Winger album, because Winger announced farewell tour. So I don't know. Let's see if they stick with it, because it doesn't seem to work for any band unless they die. But yeah, and Kip Winger, you know, he talks about how Jani Lane was, you know, ashamed of Cherry Pie and all that. And Kip said, look, man, I'm known for that song 17. And people were calling me, you know, the P word, you know, for writing a song, She's Only 17. And the funny thing about it, it was actually Beau Hill, the producer, that wrote that line in the song, She's Only 17, but she's old enough for me. It wasn't even Winger that wrote it, but still. But Winger embraced it. He goes, I don't care, they call me a pedo, whatever. Hey, man, that shit paid the bills. And that's what Cherry Pie did for Jani, you know? So, yeah, kind of wacky, but, you know. And I got to say, I am a Winger fan now. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I am still not a fan of the second Winger album, but the rest is awesome, man. I don't mind it at all. And, yeah, so that's about it for the only news that matters. I want to thank you all for watching. You all rule. And please subscribe to my channel if you haven't. And ring that little notification bell. I would appreciate that. And like the video. It's good for the YouTube algorithms. So stay frosty. Listen to the Winger song. It all comes around. You won't regret it if you do. And smack 'em a gob.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. For we've received orders for to sail back to Boston. And so never more shall we see you again.